Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 175 Quince Street here in Yamhill. We're located at the front of the home. Just beyond the porch area here, we have a 4-inch ABS cleanout set in the concrete. I want to just mention this real quick here. This cleanout is installed completely wrong. This piece right here should actually be, this is actually two pieces, the cap and the flange, and it should be glued in place. This was jammed almost a foot down inside that pipe there. So as it sits right now, it does not function like it took me almost 20 minutes to get this out of here by screwing that in to yank it out of the pipe. This needs to be changed up with a clean out cap that will actually function properly, because if that gets shoved somehow, some way down inside there, it will clog that sucker up and it'd be very hard to get back out of there at this point. Anyway, we're going to insert the camera and check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Currently have water running. Here we go. You might be able to glue that flange in place there. I would call a plumber though, because it's set in concrete. It's a little trickier, and it's in a walkway to make it even more fun. So you've got to find a way to put a clean out cap in there and make it flush to the ground so it's not a trip hazard right in the walkway. Transitions here over to 3034 PVC pipe. We're going to take a look at that lip on that there at the end, but it looks like a fairly minimal offset. It's more than likely there were people who installed it positioned that joint that way so they could get the proper angle up on the pipe. As long as it doesn't look open to the ground there, it's very minimal, and I'm not seeing any debris build up around it. We'll make sure it's closed off to the ground though. And just up ahead here is our main lateral connection at 52 feet out. And once we're reeled back in and drain the line out, we're going to reverse direction. We'll scope back into the house. This cleanout sits about 10 feet or so out from the home. And we're going to let the line drain out here for a moment, and I'm going to go locate the camera. Alright, located the camera, head successfully out the main on Quince Street. We're going to go ahead and reel in here. The line's all drained out at this point. Again, we're going to take a look at that transition joint here, just to make sure it's nothing more than just a little bit of a lip on it. Now this tie-in right here is a secondary cleanout. You'll see that there's a steel plate at the edge of the driveway. Very often that's near where the city will take responsibility if the city does accept responsibility for a portion of the line. But generally, at least in my experience, when you have a secondary cleanout like that, that's often an indicator that it's a city cleanout essentially. So the lip looks a little exaggerated because of the angle we're looking at it from. If you pull back up here, that joint still looks tight. There's no indications at all that it's open to the ground. It's not an ideal thing to have it like that, but there's absolutely no, this house has been here for 10, 12 years. If that were to be causing any significant flow problems, we'd see a lot of debris buildup and evidence of that around that area there. Not that it couldn't potentially cause an issue, but you'd have to be putting a lot of stuff that shouldn't be going down the line, you know, like paper, a whole bunch of paper towels over and over and over again, you know, stuff like that. Folded toilet paper, food down the disposal, that kind of stuff is going to shoot through that spot with almost no issue at all. It's right at the bottom of a very steep drop. Everything's shooting through there like a rocket by the time it hits that spot. And yeah, anyway, shows no evidence that it's affecting the flow in a significant way. What happens a lot of the time, because there's not necessarily a transition piece or a turn piece you can buy at the store to provide the exact angle that's needed at that turn there, a lot of times when the people are installing these things, they use a rubber fern co, and you don't get a perfectly flush joint, but it's not something that's detrimental to the functionality of the line. We're now way back inside the house. We're going to take this thing as far as we can back in. And that right there is the end of the line. We're going to go ahead and reel the camera on out of the pipe. We have good flow all the way to the main lateral. The ABS and PVC portions of the line are all in good shape. Even that joint there is, with the little lip that it has, it's still a secured joint. It's sealed off to the ground and everything. So sewer line is functioning properly at this time. Now the only recommendation I have for this sewer line here is to get this clean out fixed. And again, I would call a licensed contractor or plumber to have this figured out, because it's set in concrete like this, and it's in a walkway. You're going to want to get you want to have a good job done on this thing, or else you're going to have a pretty big trip hazard, and you might not have a functional clean out. This thing was stuffed so far down inside that it's a miracle we even got it out of there. So I just don't want to see that happen again and not have a functioning clean out access. Aside from that though, good looking sewer.